The most enjoyable aspect of attending my wife's office party was the opportunity to test the capabilities of my Challenger. Conversely, the faster I drove, the sooner I would arrive at an event I had no desire to attend. The meeting was held at a cabin in the woods with a lengthy 20-mile stretch of road leading up to it. There were no stop signs or traffic, merely the open road beckoned, awaiting the Dodge's performance. However, the lack of convenient amenities, such as gas stations and convenience stores, was a notable absence. I had hoped for a different outcome, but circumstances did not align in my favor. Donna urged me to accompany her to this ceremony, despite my initial reluctance. She had previously attended these events alone. Donna enjoyed consuming alcohol, but I did not. On occasion, I would consume a beer. She was sociable, whereas I was not. Over the previous year, I had suspected she was engaging in an extramarital affair. By that time, I had ceased to care. I believe that was one of the reasons our relationship had deteriorated. I was constrained by my time was simply seeking an avenue of escape from an unpalatable relationship. I acknowledged to myself as I drove that I was an anomalous minimalist, having grown up in a profoundly impoverished family. My brothers and I were deprived of the typical possessions and experiences of children our age, including bicycles, toys, hats, and electronic gadgets. Our circumstances were tantamount to those of Amish communities. However, without the religion, I was not as foolish as I had previously been. I was fully aware of how the normal world functioned, but I was unable to accept it. I was cognizant of the importance of staying out of debt, paying bills, and saving for retirement. To live comfortably as a minimalist, one does not have to be a fanatic, but one does have to maintain. It is important to maintain a sense of balance and allow oneself a few indulgences in order to appear normal to the majority of people. My greatest challenge was in relation to marriage and family. I found it difficult to find a woman who was able to tolerate my eccentricities and accept my uniqueness. Donna came from a similar background and was accustomed to living a modest lifestyle. She did not embrace it in the same way that I did, but she tolerated it. Over the course of our marriage, she seemed to become more accepting of my eccentricities and uniqueness. She became less frugal, which I did not like, but I understood her perspective, especially after the girls were born. We purchased a small, practical house and started wearing better clothes. Donna had her hair done from time to time and became quite adept at grooming and makeup. From time to time, she became quite adept at grooming and makeup. As the girls got older, we obtained 2 smartphones from last year's models. With the girls' needs increasing, transportation became a necessity. We purchased a small Honda Civic for Donna, similar to my vehicle. Her salary almost completely covered the cost of the car. I drove, contemplating the commonality of names. William Smith was my name, I thought. It was the most common name a person could have. I worked for a local company that manufactured industrial compressors. The job was monotonous, yet I was content with it. I was satisfied with my position and the compensation. Occasionally, I was offered a promotion, but I declined. I never informed Dee about my second affair. I chose to keep it from her, feeling it was prudent to save for retirement every chance I got. I purchased gold cruisers, more than 30 in my cellar safe, and I was just getting started. Finally, I allowed myself a 1970 Dodge Challenger. Dee did well at Gilbert Industrial, receiving regular bonuses and promotions. She discussed her job at length during the first year, but then her conversations about it became infrequent. Now, she rarely mentions her job or the people she works with. I sensed that something was amiss, but I was unable to discern the specifics. I hope to gain a deeper understanding of the situation tonight. Bill, there is no need to hurry. We have sufficient time. There is sufficient time to reach our destination. Why are you proceeding at a slower pace? He inquired, his voice imbued with concern. I am not in a hurry, I replied. You are well aware that I did not intend to engage in any unnecessary delays. I am merely utilizing this opportunity to perform maintenance on the engine. A vehicle requires periodic servicing. I kindly request that you refrain from impeding my positive outlook this weekend, as it is a crucial period for my professional advancement. She insisted, why? What do you mean? Why do you need to fully understand my new position in the company so you can give me the attention and support I need to do my job? I still don't understand. I'm sure Mrs. Simpson will explain it to you when we get there. March Simpson was the wife of the company president, Glenn. Robertson Simpson represented an established and traditional business family. I had previously supported Donna, but this new position appeared to entail distinctive responsibilities that I found challenging to comprehend upon our arrival. Donna proceeded inside the lodge, leaving me to manage the luggage. I felt somewhat pressured in that moment. Wallace, however, seemed to be a reliable and competent individual. A worker in the office greeted me. "Hello, Mr. Smith. Nice car." I replied and introduced myself to his wife, Bonnie. They were sitting on the front porch while everyone else was inside. We discussed the Challenger for a few minutes. "Why are you outside and not inside with Bonnie?" I inquired of the others, but they were not of the same social caliber as Mr. Smith. "Mrs. Simpson has expressed a desire for us to remain at the event, despite our initial intention to depart early. We arrived at the venue well in advance of the scheduled start time to assist with the setup. The vendors have already departed, approximately an hour ago." Toby provided an overview of the situation, noting some unusual circumstances. I inquired further, expressing uncertainty but a suspicion that there might be some connection. Toby then inquired as to whether I intended to remain for the duration of the weekend. I replied in the negative, explaining that I had parked my vehicle on the side of the road to avoid any inconvenience upon departure. "In that case, I should get these items to our room," I said. "Please inform me of your plans to leave." "All right," he replied. "I'll be sure to let you know before I leave." "Thank you," I said. "And please be careful. Don't engage in any risky behavior." Upon entering the residence, I encountered Donna at the top of the stairs, her demeanor indicating mild displeasure. She informed me that we had limited time to prepare for the evening's activities. She advised me to freshen up and dress in a manner that would befit the occasion. She emphasized that the night would be special and that she expected it to be executed flawlessly. I agreed and suggested a brief tour of the premises. I excused myself from the room and proceeded to the house to calm down. I informed him that I would be right back. As I walked, I observed a slight chill in the air, which made my walk more pleasant. I counted 16 cars, mostly Mercedes, with a few Jaguars and a Lexus. 4 of the cars had out-of-state license plates. I was perplexed by the number of cars and the lack of information about their owners. Donna could potentially associate with individuals of this caliber. We were undoubtedly out of our depth. I observed Toby and Bonnie loading their belongings into the vehicle. I waved and approached them. "Mrs. Simpson decided to allow you to leave, but we are gradually losing our footing. I am uneasy here, Mr. Smith." Toby considered the possibility of remaining, but I dissuaded him. "I would like you to stay," but I convinced him otherwise. Bonnie interjected, "Could you please remain until after the buffet tonight? I am also feeling uneasy, and I would be grateful if you could stay. I am unsure of the situation, but I am not pleased about it." "It is interesting how minds can be similar, isn't it, Bonnie?" I attempted to lighten the mood with a joke, but she blushed slightly in response. I attempted to inject humor into the situation, suggesting that we could stay. Toby concurred, attempting to sound enthusiastic. I had dressed as my wife had insisted before we reached the buffet. The hostess took me aside and expressed her gratitude for my support of Donna. She emphasized the significance of my presence at the event, emphasizing that it was a crucial step in Donna's career and that my support was essential. "I am pleased to inform you that the remuneration and benefits have increased significantly. I am confident that you will be gratified by this development. However, I must ask your indulgence while I clarify the exact position in question." When I inquired about this, Donna was evasive. I then asked her directly, and she replied that she simply wants to surprise you. I then asked her if there was an official title for the position, but she did not answer. Name, one might venture to state that she is the personal assistant. The hostess proceeded to elucidate the details of the buffet, which appeared to be quite appetizing. "I am grateful for your clarification, Mrs. Simpson. Marge." I spent the subsequent hour sampling the various items available at the buffet. Donna was otherwise engaged in socializing with individuals of importance, affording Toby, Bonnie, and I a greater opportunity to interact. As the evening drew to a close, Mrs. Simpson approached William. Donna inquired as to whether he would be amenable to taking them for a drive with a beverage. She then proceeded to inform him that there were 3 cases of wine at the ABC store in Brook, which had already been paid for. All he was required to do was retrieve them. Should any issues arise, kindly contact me via telephone. It is imperative that you bring your mobile phone. Marge instructed. I would be delighted to assist, Marge. I will inform Donna and proceed shortly. Donna merely smiled when I informed her. Her sole comment was, do not forget your phone. Interestingly, they both emphasized the same point. Toby, I have a favor to ask, I said, tossing the keys to the Challenger onto the table. Are you serious? Toby asked, his tone indicating surprise. Go to Holbrook and purchase 3 cases of wine from the ABC store for Mrs. Simpson. I anticipate a potential complication that might cause a delay. I explained. Toby smiled and nodded. Here's my cell phone. Put it on the. If the phone rings, do not answer it. It is imperative that you do not turn it off. How long do you require us to remain absent? At least 2 hours. After approximately 20 minutes, Mrs. Simpson and Donna observed the phone with great interest, verifying my location. Thanks to Toby, I was nearly in Holbrook. They both smiled as Mrs. Simpson raised her hand and began to speak, though unfortunately, I could not discern the words. However, it was evident from their expressions that they were in agreement with the sentiments being expressed. Glenn Robertson Simpson approached Donna and took her hand, then proceeded to ascend the main staircase. As they climbed, they raised their hands in a gesture of triumph and laughed. The room was filled with a sense of elation. It was approximately an hour and a half later when the Challenger returned. Approximately half an hour before the Challenger returned, I elected to take my time and enjoy myself. I always had my trusty penknife with a sharp blade. I surveyed the area and decided to begin with the cars closest to the house. I meticulously placed each valve stem in my jacket pocket, as I was disinclined to clog the driveway to the Simpson residence. 16 vehicles and 64 valves remained to be addressed. With approximately an hour remaining, I was uncertain of the optimal approach. I proceeded to the locked vehicles first, then to the unlocked ones. I began with the closest vehicles and retrieved the registration sheets. Some were located on the visor, while others were in the glove compartment. I was uncertain as to the eventual use of the items, but they might prove useful. 20 minutes later, I had obtained an additional 10 valve stems. 2 cars lacked spare tires. While this action could be perceived as petty and childish, I derived a degree of satisfaction from it. I am not inclined towards confrontation, and thus, my actions were deliberate and calculated. I did not engage in any behavior that might be perceived as self-aggrandizing. Due to my lack of confidence, I did not feel the need to present myself in a way that would be perceived as masculine or heroic. I will allow those who are perceived as such to assume that role. 20 minutes later, the Challenger returned. Toby and Bonnie appeared to enjoy the ride. When I inquired about any potential issues, I was informed that there had been a delay at the ABC store. It appeared that the delay may have been I had previously informed Toby that I had not been contacted by telephone. I advised Sood to seek alternative employment with minimal delay. I informed him that the cases of wine were expensive, but I placed all 3 crates on the porch of the gatehouse to avoid being accused of theft. The journey home was tranquil. I had few personal belongings of value at the house, only a few documents, a laptop, and some items of a more ephemeral nature. I considered setting the house on fire before I left, but I did not want to make Donna a martyr. The journey took 2 hours. Subsequently, I commenced my journey, leaving no note or wedding ring behind. I allowed her to confront the situation independently. I was not in a hurry and had no specific objective in mind. After 2 days on the road, I contacted my employer and informed them of my intention to resign. I requested that my final remuneration be directed to my parents in Carl. They expressed discontent at my abrupt departure. I offered my apologies but did not provide an explanation. I found an intriguing advertisement for a local supermarket seeking assistance with shelf-loading duties between 10, please see page P. The hours in question are 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. I proceeded to examine the market, which was situated within an eclectic, historic Chattanooga neighborhood. After traversing the vicinity for approximately an hour, I encountered a sign advertising a garage apartment for rent. Despite not having inquired about potential employment opportunities, I was reluctant to forfeit the apartment. The garage was not included in the stated price, but upon offering an additional $50 per month, the proprietor agreed to the terms. The apartment was modest in size. The apartment was furnished with a bed, dresser, table, and chairs. The rent was reasonable, and the apartment was suitable, so I accepted it. I would address the bathroom issue at a later date. At least I had a garage for the car. The supermarket owners were serious when they offered me a full-time position. I was employed as an inventory manager for all FR units. However, the company insisted that I become a permanent employee, which meant that I had to be fully legalized. At that point, it no longer mattered, so I agreed. Harry was happy, and I was as well. A few more weeks went by, and I hadn't heard from my daughters. Then I received a quick text message: "Mom got fired." This made things a little more complicated. I now had a full-time job with a decent paycheck. I was gainfully employed with a satisfactory salary, and my father was no longer engaged in gainful employment. I was concerned that I might be subjected to penalties in the divorce proceedings. "William, I have some encouraging news to share." Harry stated, "I have some positive developments to report." He then elaborated, 3 of the 11 individuals we sued have reached settlements. What does this signify? The insurance companies advised them to accept the settlements and avoid a public lawsuit. Their insurance policies covered the settlements, so the losses were not significant. Have we received any financial compensation? I have already received 3 checks, and I anticipate that there will be more. Do you believe that this has something to do with Donna getting fired? Yes, I believe that it is likely. Will this have an impact on the outcome of my divorce? Have you filed the relevant documents yet? The time was 12 a.m. After checking into the Sheraton Hotel, I contacted Linda and requested that she provide a DNA sample and invite Laura to lunch at the restaurant the following day. During our conversation at the restaurant, we avoided discussing the circumstances of our first night together, which had occurred over a year prior. We had been friends without benefits for that entire period. My primary objective was to ensure that Laura would not feel uncomfortable, and I will not delve into the specifics of the evening. However, I can state that it was not as traumatic as we had anticipated. As anticipated, the experience was somewhat traumatic for both of us, but we were able to persevere and achieve positive outcomes. She appeared relieved, and I was gratified to find that the situation was not as dire as she had led me to believe. In the morning, we were elated. We had a late breakfast, and Donna and her daughters were already seated at the table. I wore one of my new sports coats with a dark turtleneck, and I felt confident and presentable. Harry was wearing one of her light business suits. My attire was somewhat casual yet professional. My wife and daughters regarded me with astonishment. "Donna, Linda, and Laura, this is Harriet Parker, my legal counsel and assistant." Harry, my wife, Donna, Linda, and Laura, I introduced myself in a somewhat stilted manner before we could devolve into meaningless chatter. The waiter arrived to take our order. I informed them that I was not hungry and would just have coffee. Donna suggested that I should simply, "Please bring us 5 cups of coffee and leave the coffee pot on the table." I suggested. The waiter nodded and everyone seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. "It is good to see you again. Bill, could you tell us about what you have been up to these last few years?" Donna asked. "I have been working and giving you the freedom to find yourself or whatever it is you do," I replied. "I needed you and you left me. Maybe you needed." Harry kicked me lightly under the table. "Someone, but not me. Mom, Dad. Forget it. I'm sure you didn't arrange this meeting to tease each other." "Dad, why are we here?" Linda was persistent. I was at a loss. I glanced at Harry, seeking guidance on how to proceed. She adored me, but dominated the conversation. Harry reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. He extended it across the table to Donna and Mrs. Smith. "This is a divorce petition," he said. "I believe you'll find it quite fair. I suggest you should consult with your attorney to review the document. Lara and Linda appeared astonished, as if they had not anticipated this turn of events. Donna, however, was smiling broadly. She did not take the envelope from Harry but reached into her purse and pulled out one of her own. "You foolishly initiated divorce proceedings against me 8 months ago for desertion. You never received a copy because I was unaware of the appropriate mailing address. This is the final decree, and I have a copy." She then proceeded to make a claim, her smile transforming into a broad grin. The waiter returned with our coffee in a full table vase, just as Donna stood up. She smiled at Harry and me, gave the girls a peculiar look, and departed, leaving both envelopes on the table. "Dad, may we stay for lunch?" Laura inquired. Harry and I responded with laughter and requested the waiter to bring the menu. Harry, Lara, and Linda enjoyed a splendid lunch and engaged in conversation. I felt as though I were dining alone. I had never fully comprehended women. The girls exchanged phone numbers and promised to maintain contact. Back in my room, I began packing. William, I had assumed we were staying one additional night. However, not in this location. I urged him to expedite his packing. An hour and 30 minutes later, we arrived in Elton, Maryland. 30 minutes after that, Harriet Parker transformed into Ari Smith. We spent the night in Luray, Virginia. We now possess a house with a 3, the matter of the garage is a separate issue. Donna suffered a seizure when she discovered that I had received over $2 million from Gilbert Industries. She subsequently relocated to Bua, although the reason for this is unclear.